Hi everyone, welcome back to Ringside Seat. I've got my favourite people here, Brian and Kahinde, and we're about to go in on a boxing roundup. Welcome back to FTB Sports. This is Ringside Seat. My name's Omonti Juma. Yeah, I'm working on them. Do my little car phrases, you know. Wait till you see the second series. It'll be a lot bigger, hopefully. Or maybe you can jump in for me, Zico, and just come. Yeah, be my body double. I've seen your calves; they're monsters. Anyway, I want to say welcome back to. Brian, how you doing, Brian? Do you want last saw you on the Kelbrook and Amir Khan preview show. How you doing, bruv?
Lovely, absolutely wonderful. Great to be back again. Nice to make the acquaintance with your wonderful brother again, Kahinde. Yes, I'm sure we'll have a good chat tonight.
And little but big bro, Kahinde, how are you doing, man? Since the last time we done a show together.
Yeah, good, man. It was a good fight. I'm looking forward to talking about all the upcoming boxing events.
I just want to cuss the other guy because usually the four horsemen are here. But Robbie has decided to do a runner. He's got more important things to do. And he said we were brothers earlier. And this is how the phone call went. He said, sorry, Zach, I've got to go to the cinema. And I said, all right, you go to the cinema. I said, but when are you taking me, you know? So he's taking his son to the cinema, but he doesn't want to come on the show. But he sends his apologies. He will be back.
What is he going to see?
I don't know. We're going to find out.
That's the way to. Yeah, Robbie.
Hopefully, he's not a secret rendezvous because he's a good family man. Yeah? Guys, last time when we left you off, we went and done a sort of a show on the Kelbrook versus Amir Khan fight. That was a big fight, really. Turned out to be a big fight, even though these guys are coming to the end of their career. Brian. Do you ever get it wrong? Because you like to give a good statement about how you see the fight going before the fight actually happens. And most of the time, you're on the money. And once again, you were on the money with the fight. No. So do you want to just tell us just give us a summary about the fight, what you saw, and how it sort of played into what you perceived before the fight?
Well, certainly when I do get it wrong, which I like to think isn't that often. No.
Not really.
I get some big ones, such as Manny Pacquiao versus, I think it was Algieri. I was up for winning 250 quid. I just betted on Froch and Groves. I was up for 250 quid if Manny Pacquiao had knocked out Algieri's blood clot, which most of us thought was a certainty.
He knocked him down a few times.
And I remember my ass in the 11th round like this because Pacquiao carried that bitch all the way through, and I went down to 50 pence and I haven't betted since.
Oh my God!
I was so pissed off.
So how did you know about the result with the Amir Khan fight?
For me, I will say I maintained that Amir's Khan had gone since Phil LaGreco. This is 5 years ago. Yeah. People talked about the problems he had with his chin and everything else, and I maintained it wasn't that at that particular point in time. But when it came down to Phil LaGreco getting knocked down, getting shaken every time by some freaking kid coming up from featherweight.
Sorry, B, to interrupt you. Isn't Phil LaGreco the one that can't beat in one round? I'm sure he is.
No. He's the one that came back. Yeah. Zach can check it out at some point, but he's the one that came back and took him rounds. He was supposed to be an easy.
I'm thinking it's the guy can't beat within like one round with the 1 minute.
I think is he the ex-porn star, Phil? Porn star guy. I'm serious. I'm serious. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, go on. Carry on, guys.
Yeah, so for me, it really was a case of once, for me, his chin had been cracked. He wasn't going to fare too well from Brook touching him up, because I didn't feel he was going to be able to knock Brook out. And if Brook had anything left about himself, with his better technique, bearing in mind that Amir gets touched easy. For someone with such fast twitch fibers, he gets hit very, very easily. And the combination of things didn't work well for me.
Guys, I'm looking on BoxRec and Phil LaGreco. It was a first round TKO, apparently.
Cool. Yeah. That's
Respect.
what I said. That's what I
was
said.
the guy? What was the guy then? Respect to that one.
Well, with prior to that, so he
around that time.
Billy Gibb, Terence Crawford,
Samuel
Vargas. Samuel Vargas. It was Samuel Vargas. It was.
Samuel Vargas is not a bad
I've been saying Phil LaGreco. I've had that in my head for 2 years now.
Yeah, you said it on the last show as well, and I was thinking that's not right, but yeah.
So it's Samuel Vargas. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's the guy. I do recall that. He did get rocked a couple of times in that fight.
Well done, well done, Zico.
Khan was down late.
You corrected me last time. I got the names wrong. No, I got the names mixed up.
That's Waddle. That's Waddle.
That's my one.
So Kehinde,
Shane Crawford.
Yeah.
Kehinde, what did you have? I can't remember what you said prior to the fight on the show. Well, how did you pick it?
I had Brooke winning, but I thought it would go to distance. I didn't think anyone would get stopped because I didn't think they would be able to pull the trigger no more. I thought it would probably go the distance, but yeah, I was wrong.
I too, I had it going the distance. I thought that we both have enough pride to stay up. But I was really, we were out that night. Oh, I was out that night. I was watching it on the big screen while dancing, and I've watched it since. And yeah, it was sort of really one-sided. I was really impressed the way Kel got him. I think Amir Khan, I expected him to sort of use the distance and use the ring, the full size of the ring and get away. But he seemed to be in there for like a tear up, and his face after the fight was showed the results.
If you think about it, remember how Khan came out? He'd been training with the new team. They've been trying to get him using his defense. He came out like this, right? You've never seen Khan doing. He wasn't even twitching or fainting. He was doing that, to try and be a metronome style to confuse Brooke and whatever. And remember, it was in the first round. The first good thump he took, he was shook straight away.
Yeah, from a jab, he was like that,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, just asking in general, but how do you know when a fight is finished? Because I think you said that when he ever gets hit a few fights ago, there's only 2 fights ago with the Vargas fight, obviously. But what sort of things do you look for to say when a fight is sort of on the downhill slope? Anybody?
Who wants to answer that?
Well, anyone. I'm just putting it out there. People seem to know that Amir Khan was on the side. It seems.
I think it was for me with the Khan thing. It was hard to tell because he avoided that Brooke fight to fight bigger names. He fought. Khan's resume is good in terms of the guys that he's fought. So because he's fighting these high caliber boxers, and he's getting beaten, it's hard to say whether he's finished, is he just not on their level. So that's why it was really difficult to predict a fight. I think with the Terence Crawford fight, Khan was not in that fight at all, really. Canelo was just waiting for him, just timing him. Everyone thought Khan looked good, he's doing flashy stuff, but we all knew what was coming. So it's very hard to try to tell whether he was finished or not. But I think everyone would say Brooke was more on his little level, British level. They've both been world champions and all that. And that I think that was the fight to see. Yeah, that Khan hasn't got it no more because it's the legs. I think it's always the legs that could tell.
Okay.
His footwork.
What about punch resistance? But it's hard to tell with Khan because he's never, as Brian keeps saying, he's never really had that sort of kind of punch resistance, has he? Going back to the Prescott fight when he got knocked out within a round.
Again,
old fight as well.
Those things, Khan has a vulnerability around the head, the cheekbone, the temple. Wasn't really the chin. Yeah? Because he took some big heavy blows from Maidana and took them for rounds. Quite frankly, that's a fight that probably would have been stopped if he wasn't the A side.
Yeah,
because there was enough room to stop that fight when he was getting thumped around the ring in the 8th or 9th, whatever. And we were like, wow, how's he still standing? And the referee's letting it go on, whatever. But there was a lot of investment in Khan in the time, so they allowed that to happen. But seriously, he was getting shook each time he was getting hit. And once we saw him get shook by Vargas, for me, it was like, okay, sorry. Yeah, and subsequently in the fights there, remember, Khan is always great for 6 rounds. His offense is his defense. So, like Zico said, he'll throw out those combinations, flashy, not always that much power, but keeps the guy off until he slows down. Then he starts getting caught.
Just want to say, guys, got Andy Herbert in the house, and regarding this question here, he's saying Khan is finished, should retire now. Brook, I think he thinks Brook's got a couple fights in him, and maybe should have 3 or 4 more fights. It also says Tyson Fury have said about his retirement and said Anthony Joshua he's a waste. Okay, yeah, we get onto that. And he said, I think at your age you get slower legs and you're not strong enough for reactions, getting slower maybe. And yeah, that's his. He's so quick, isn't he, Amir Khan? But yeah, I don't think they're talking. The Matchroom is saying that he might do a rematch. There's a rematch clause, isn't there? And they're saying there's a possibility that Amir Khan might come out.
Here's the plot twist. Plot twist. I believe Team Khan got a bit clever, so they look to leverage the situation because they've been talking to Hearn about step aside. Right? They mentioned step aside to Hearn. And he's saying, well, do you know what? We're not really that bothered about that because, go off and fight Brook again if you want to, because Conor Ben, we're looking to marinate him a little bit. We've got a few months to play with him, whatever. So I believe they talked about reenacting the rematch clause because they were looking to see if they could leverage step-aside money out of Matchroom.
So, I feel a lot of people, when this rematch clause news came out, it's only just a suggestion. I don't think it's real truth. There's no real stand as truth.
I think that's everyone behind that because he was beaten conclusively by Brook.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. That's the point. That people were gasping and saying, "Really?" Because when you're beaten like that, it's not even close. It's not going to say it was like went the distance or something like that. Yeah, it's a one-sided beatdown almost. Unfortunately for Amir Khan. What do you think, bro? Do you think rematch? Do you see anything?
Well, I said on the last show that after the fight they both should retire. I don't, regardless of Brook looking good in the fight, I just don't think there's anywhere for Brook to go because he's not going to be a world champion again. So if he's just after paydays, then he might want to fight Conor Ben. But I think Conor Ben would embarrass him at that weight. I do. Really? No, honestly.
Let's talk about this.
Hear me out. I'm saying that I don't think Brook, his motivation was always to beat Amir Khan, just like Holyfield's motivation was always to beat Mike Tyson. Yeah. And now he's done that now. I don't think he will have the same motivation of fighting Conor Ben. He's not going to have that motivation again because he's been a world champion. He's done it really, and I just think Conor Ben, he's a hungry up and coming fighter, and it depends what weight it's at, really, to be honest. Because Brook,
thank you. Now,
Brook can't make 147 no more. Yeah, so that makes a big difference. If Conor Ben wants to meet him at a catch weight, then maybe, but I just don't think the motivation and the desire there is going to be there from Brook anymore. He should just finish on a high. Because if he has a few more fights, he's going to get embarrassed by someone.
Interesting, though.
Yeah, that's. I would say, Zika, that's going to be inevitable for sure. But the mitigating circumstance with Ben, the level that Brook is on, is more than enough to Ben at this point. People have to stop buying the Kool-Aid because Ben's got talent, and he's definitely going somewhere. And his rate of improvement is excellent, and he really wants the game. But Brook is definitely on another level. And should they fight, they're going to be doing it at their 150. It's not going to be any lower than that, which means that you've allowed for that certain weight there. And honestly, if you stood Brook next to Ben is small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ben is small. Brooke is a size compared to Conor Benn. Quite frankly, Ben is the fight I definitely take because one, I think it gets his juices flowing because they're talking about some young pretender going to beat him up. It's never going to happen that way. Trust me on that.
So, Brian, like you say, so one's on the way down, but one's on the way up. But you still think the one on the way down
high level,
still
naturally
higher,
bigger guy, still has the ability. Ben isn't going in there and flattening Kell Brook.
You know what this reminds me of?
Sorry, for a while is a different level.
It kind of reminds me of James DeGale, Chris Eubank situation, where James DeGale, he vacated his IBF belt. He just won his belt back, IBF. He's fought on a higher level than Chris Eubank Jr. He's been a two-time world champion, fought better guys, but he vacated his belt so he could fight Chris Eubank Jr. for the payday. And he got embarrassed by Chris Eubank Jr. because if you're fighting for the money, you don't really have the motivation. So that's how I see the situation. That like I just don't. I just think I always want to see boxers just finish on a high, finish on a good win, and that's it. I think with Kell, even though he's got the ability to beat Conor Benn, I don't think the motivation is going to be there, the desire.
All right. Let me throw some counters at you because I watched a couple of interviews with Kell, and I would say that he's ready for one more. And if Ben is the one in the time, that's fine. If we were talking Eubank, I'd be going, Kell, you're stupid because he'll break you up over 8, 9, 10 rounds, in my opinion. But when it comes down to Ben, nah, Brooks ready enough. And the other thing is when James DeGale fought, James DeGale had spent the last 6 years getting smashed to bits in virtually every fight. Kell Brook, we had the Golovkin where he took a couple of bad thumps. No, it wasn't bad injuries, fine. But he wasn't getting smashed to bits by Golovkin for 6 rounds. When he went with Crawford, he wasn't getting smashed to bits. It's like, oh, the other eye, or when Spence. Yeah, when he went in with Spence, he wasn't getting smashed to bits. It was like, okay, the other eye freaking went, mate, you're losing your resistance. But James DeGale was getting smashed to pieces by the time. And I see Eubank is very shrewd. He picks guys very, very shrewdly.
There was a guy, I think James DeGale lose to somebody like
Caleb Trance, well and he won it back off him. So he was literally the champion, but he vacated his belt to fight Eubank for the money.
Just briefly, guys. I mean, talking on DeGale, do you think he was committed? Because I used to hear maybe he used to have like the nightlife and the raving and a few of, what that comes with that.
They all have a good nightlife at some point, especially David Hay and all these guys do. But I would say he could be proud of himself. Olympic gold medalist and he's 2-time world champion, and he beat some good guys.
Yeah. What do you think, Brian? James DeGale on the whole, do you think he should be proud of himself? His career?
Yeah, I think, look, it's really weird because if you're a manager or a promoter, you're going to try or trainer, you're going to tell your boxer, look, you've got 100% live this life. We understand how the modern boxer works is none of them really easily 100% live the life, right? There's different training regimens. There's the partying. There's the galdem. There's the drugs in some cases. They ain't 100%, and they probably haven't done it since the 80s. Yeah. So that's not where they're at in this world. So when I look at people like DeGale, these guys typically will train like freaking demons during training camp, and that's what they do.
And Ricky Hatton was the same. Ricky Hatton used to put on loads of weight, but when it came down to training, the weight that he looked ripped and everything. But
he was
eventually it takes its toll when you keep doing that.
Absolutely, he was this disgrace for doing that.
Yeah.
He
was. Remind me, guys. Who was James DeGale's trainer? The old guy who fought Zuma Nelson.
Oh, the voice, the husky voice.
Jim.
Yeah.
I thought, he was super fit. I mean, he gets his guys in great condition. But James Girl, I mean, yeah, let him. He made his money and had a good career, world champion, of course. So
I don't see much of him anymore. I thought he would have been on some I'm a Celebrity, or he's like disappeared.
Yeah, that's true.
What's going on with him, Zico?
Personality, I don't know. Zeke, what's going on? Do you know?
I don't know. Big head, big personality. I don't know.
You haven't
He's
met
making
him at any of the
clubs,
clubs,
isn't
then?
he?
What's that?
You haven't met him at any of the clubs, then?
No, I haven't run into him. I haven't run into him yet.
What's he going?
Yeah.
I heard Zico was out last night in Victoria. Yeah. Is that right, Zeke? Still,
no comment. Yeah.
Exactly.
Guys, we're gonna move on now. Because I just want to ask you before we go on, because you know where we're going with this one. What's the worst, like in boxing? That's a robbery. But in your mind, just name a couple fights. Name some fights that you actually think are genuine robberies in history. That you say, oh no. So name a couple fights. I'm
gonna go first.
And before you do, remember, we're gonna go into detail here. What is a robbery? I mean, is it? You know what I mean? What is a real robbery here? Now think about this. Name a fight that's a real robbery out there.
All right, I'm gonna name two off the top that I think was the worst that I've seen in my lifetime. Lewis Holyfield, the first fight.
You remember I had money on that one.
Yeah, £50.
Yeah, £50. Back then it was a lot of money for me. Yeah.
And the other one was Pacquiao Bradley, the first fight, because Bradley literally like broke his ankle. He didn't do nothing to Pacquiao. And Bob Arum, all in house. It was all the big plan from Bob Arum. I've got two guys. I'm gonna get the rematch and all that. And that was like one of the worst decisions.
So in those two fights, you can't make an argument. I would say the Lennox Lewis fight, even though I was pissed about being a draw, I think you could maybe make a case for something, but yeah, it maybe is a robbery, but it's not outrageous, you know. Brian, can you name a couple fights where you come to mind?
I was going to go Pacquiao Bradley.
Okay, that one for sure then.
That was the one that really stuck in my. Everything else I kind of blanked out about.
Okay, all right. So now we know we're going to talk about Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall in Scotland. It was live. Yeah, I'm sure we all watched the fight. Is that a robbery, guys?
Robbery with caveat.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, if we go with the psychology of the challenger, typically has to rip the belt away from the champion or the A-side guy. That's the typical conventional perception we have. Let's be fair with that. Now, Catterall dealt with him for the majority of 8 rounds. Then he started running out of steam, and whilst he wasn't dominated, he definitely lost steam in those last 4 rounds. Okay. And for me, that didn't help the situation. So when you're dealing with the A side, who starts putting up a bit of resistance in the last 4 rounds, that was enough to sway some things. And the other side, which I'm sure Zico will probably touch upon, is that when you look at those scorecards, is boxing doesn't change the way they scorecards for a reason. All those delays, 10, 12, 15 minutes, there's shit being remarked, mate. Come on, let's be clear. No reason for those delays in this day and age.
Bro, how did you see the fight?
Yeah, like I agree. Like Catterall, he's had a good start. He didn't finish well. When they always call it the championship rounds, you got to finish the last 4 rounds are really important. But even though he faded, I don't think he lost the fight. I would have gave Josh Taylor like 4 rounds or something. And especially like for me, if you knock the champion down, that's like a big thing. It's a big statement.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, was it twice? Yeah. But I'm like, that. I think that's even worse. So I'm just like, he definitely should have got the decision, or it should have been a draw. Like, no way should it have been the other way. What my thing is with it is like, it would have. I for business, I thought it would have made sense. I don't know who the promoter of Catterall is. Who's his promoter?
He's got. I don't know whose promoter is.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the reason why he lost. Because for me, it's like we all know Josh Taylor's going up to welterweight. It would have been perfect if 2 British fighters, Catterall, getting all the 4 belts and in that division, being undisputed basically in that division. you know, and just let Josh Taylor go up in the weight, you know, because he's going to vacate those belts anyway. So now the belts are going to be scattered around, and he's going to have to. Catro's going to have to fight whoever it is. But it's just, I feel sorry for him because it's a missed opportunity. It's real.
Well, when you consider the marketing aspect, we've got the undisputed champ going up. There's real marquee value, real publicity.
Yeah,
value.
with an O. He's got going up with an O. If he goes up undefeated and fights,
they weren't letting that one go. They weren't letting that one go.
I get that aspect as well. Yeah.
And we've often said it ourselves, you know, you've got to freaking KO the guy to get a draw.
Yeah.
In these contexts.
What do you think about? Because I was really impressed by Catterall. I thought he really landed the flush of shots clearly early on, dropped him as well. I thought he's coming in really close at times and smothering Josh's work. Josh looked really frustrated. He was fighting like a drunken Scotsman outside the pub on a Saturday night. I mean, you can see he's like, come on, let's have it, that sort of thing. And I felt, you know, I felt that a bit disappointed with Josh Taylor after the fight because he wasn't really giving as much credit to his opponent. And he was making excuses, and I understand it because you can't let your status
messed up his PR reacting that way. Seriously, because people already seem to want to dislike it.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, repeat that, please, Brian. Again,
yeah, people already seemed as if they wanted to dislike him. They hated the decision, and they hated him more when they saw his reaction at the end of it. That kind of delusional, well, I thought I won the fight, blah, 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 whatever. No.
But you think someone's in his ear, though, saying, make sure.
I just think it's his ego. It's his competitive ego.
Okay.
At best, he drew that fight. At very best.
Yeah.
And for most objectives, it's like, mate, you lost. You lost the fight, man. Crack on. But business wasn't going to let him lose that fight without being KO'd.
So so we know where Josh goes from here. We'll talk about that in a sec. But what about Jack? He's proven he can maybe be at this level, but I don't. Looking around that division, can he really be a world champion? I mean, was this his moment? Is he? Because I'm thinking he put up a good performance against a guy who's sort of fading at the weight and needs to go up. But do you think he's got a genuine chance now of being a world champion based on that performance? I don't actually.
Well,
I think he's European, maybe borderline world level.
Just quickly on that point you made, Catterall boxed in a very disciplined fashion and was very, very impressive for the 8 rounds that we saw. Josh Taylor boxed worse than I've ever seen technically. That isn't about being drained. So whether he didn't train properly for him or whatever, his boxing was shit. Yeah, throwing wild punches, missing, looping. That's not draining there. That's someone who didn't train right and probably thought, you know what, I'm going to smash you in 2 or 3 rounds, which is what I thought.
Okay, so what do you think about where Jack goes from now? Do you think he can get up again and get up for a big fight and do you think he can be a world champion at that weight?
Yeah, I think you've got to say that he's got some potential for that, but I think psychologically, this is a massive blow to the guy. Yes, and sometimes we're all grown-ass men. There's sometimes things that happen in life that you just can't come back from when it's too devastating an issue.
I 100% agree with you because, like, if that happened to me, my motivation and enthusiasm of the sport was just be so down that I don't know if I could get myself up again. Yeah. You know, you had a chance to be undisputed at that, have all the belts at that weight class. And now you're going to have to fight whoever it is. It's going to be scattered around. And it could have been one of those situations where he wanted to prove that he's the best British fighter at that weight class. And he just had the guy's number. Maybe what Zach is saying is true, that he might not be able to beat another guy in the division, a world level guy. We just don't know.
Do you feel Josh should give him the rematch?
No. If he's got to go up, he's got to go up. But I accept that. He does seem tight at the weight. So so going to Josh now, I mean, he's got the credibility so on Box Rec of going up as unbeaten. But obviously everyone knows he's had a nightmare. Going up, I mean, you got Errol Spence, Crawford, Ugas, and Spencer fighting soon. That should be a good fight. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a bit. Ennis, do you guys know Ennis? He's unbeaten, 28-0. Furman. I was gonna say Nigel Benn, Conor Benn, and the European guy. Should I throw Conor Benn in the mix?
Not yet.
And he's Kelbrick's gone past 147. And Anna Vizian, I can't pronounce his name. You know the guy I'm talking about, the guy who's Conor Benn's avoiding, the European guy at welterweight.
Avanesian,
yeah. So that's the state of the welterweight division. You got Josh Taylor with some credibility as being the undisputed light welterweight champion, moving up. I mean, what if you were guiding Josh Taylor? Where would you steer him in this? What direction would you steer him in?
To me, I'm not pitching him in with the top three at this point in time because I just don't feel he was an animal at 140. At 147, I don't believe he's going to be the same animal, and I rate him as pound for pound the number one fighter in the UK. But I do believe that the size of the guys at 147, who they would, in terms of what they boil down to and their experience and whatever, I kind of think, he could start taking some tumps because he is quite hittable. As great as he is an offensive fighter, he is very hittable. That's never a good sign.
I love it when he say take some tumps. It's like I love that expression. It's good to me. Bro, what do you think about Josh Taylor at welterweight with the names we put out there? Does he take some tumps?
Yeah, he takes some tumps. That's it. The top guys in that division, I don't think he's on their level.
Is it because of the size? Do you think he can outbox these guys coming up from a weight?
It's not just the size. It's not just the size. I just think it's the skill level as well. Like Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are on a completely different level.
Yeah, and
they're going to be around for a good few more years. So, yeah.
Who manages Josh Taylor? Is he a Eddie Hearn guy? I don't think.
It's mentioning Taylor again. No, it's not Hearn.
Someone needs to make good decisions with him then, because it'd be wise.
Isn't Aaron Warren connection with Taylor?
I'm not sure. This will say that's why I put it out there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
He's trained by Ben Davidson as well, and it's another issue. Like Ben Davidson's been called out again for this, because the last time when he got sacked by Tyson Fury and Fury looked bad in that fight with the Swedish guy, there was something that suggested about the way Ben Davidson got him prepared in terms of his conditioning and all that. And the same's happened now with Josh Taylor. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a new trainer, Josh Taylor.
Is it so? Ben Davison, I think it's from the MGM Marbella group, isn't it? That kind of thing. Yeah. I think Ben Davison, I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but because of his age, there's always, from the experts, there's always people frowning at him. I saw Spencer Fearon on his show. He was saying, not saying negative stuff about him, but just saying there's a question mark still about him. And maybe it's to do with experience and age and things. But Ben Davison, I think he got Trainer of the Year. Just moments before the show, I saw something saying Ben Davison and Fighter of the Year for Josh Taylor. And I think, oh, God, shame. How are you going to be holding this up after that performance? Who knows? But Ben Davison, I think... go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
So Taylor was with Davidson when he won his 4 belts, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh. Who was he
I think the first time I've seen him in the last fight, Davidson.
That's the first. Yeah, that's the first time I've seen him train him. So.
Oh really?
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows Ben is known for getting Tyson Fury in shape out of that bad mental state that he was in.
And for Billy Joe Saunders as well. He was.
Yeah, but Billy Joe Saunders changes trainers all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What I will say is that to me it appears fairly obvious that Davidson is a very good trainer. What I believe is I question whether he has gravitas with his fighters. He comes across like a mate.
Yeah.
And if there's a weak point in his armory at this stage, to me, it's that aspect to his personality, his age. I'm a mate. Do it because we're mates. Not do it because I'm your trainer and you need to know how to do this shit and what to do. That's my opinion.
Like,
I
none
think that's
of us
great.
have heard him like really shout at his guy in the corner and say, you know, you're doing, you know, so really drum it into him like one of those Teddy Atlas moments, you know. None of that. Like, so
now you can see the fighter going, look, you talk to me like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
I
fight
think
for you?
I think that's a great point about
Do you want to get in there yourself?
Yeah.
Do you remember Manuel Stewart with Vladimir Klitschko?
Jermaine Taylor.
Eddie,
I remember him with Jermaine Taylor.
Eddie,
Jermaine
and Eddie. When Vladimir Klitschko was carrying Eddie
Chambers,
who's the Detroit fight?
Is it Eddie Chambers?
Eddie Chambers, sorry.
Yeah.
And he kept going at him, and you know, because you see, he was getting upset with him. Then he had to go at Lennox Lewis with the Tyson fight as well. But I love to see that. I think that he means what he says, and you have to have that sort of add parent and child sort of also that kind of respect if you're a trainer. Like
He's more worried about disturbing his brill cream, I tell you.
That's true.
Well, look, just got to keep it the same way, yeah.
I like Emmanuel Stewart. I thought he was top trainer for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, like you said, the way he talks to these guys, you have to have that sort of respect. And I thought Brian made a great point there about the friendship, the mates thing. I think maybe he has to wait till he's like 50 years old and then get. Oh, but it's true. It's a great point. He's young. He's guys. Before we go into the heavyweights, just I don't know if you saw Lawrence Okoli last week. He came, had a big fight. The Source, Lawrence Okoli, he's 18-0 now. He's a WBO cruiserweight champion, 6'5", 82-inch reach, and he fought a tough cruiserweight Polish guy, Cieslak, who was 21-1, and then his only defeat was in the Congo, in Zaire, to the WBC champ, who was also born in Zaire but fights out of South Africa, Matubu. Anyone see the fight? And what's the feedback?
I'll start first because probably Zico watched it and I didn't. All I did was read reviews and I just saw a whole load of slagging off of the guy called Okoli. Yeah, and I just said, all right, you know what? Same old, octopus, flipping MMA, wrestling, boxing style, doesn't like getting hit, so he'll hug you instead. And I left it at that.
Good analysis, I think, bro.
Yeah, I just saw like brief like highlights here and there, but it was one of those fights like I wasn't that interested in watching because I just expected a Cody to win. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's like I didn't think the guy was going to give him a good challenge. So when a Cody fights another champion like the guy Bellew beat, the WBC champion, I'll be interested in tuning in because I think Okoli might have a chance to be undisputed in that division. Because there's another cruiserweight, I forget his name, that's actually really, really good. WBC champ. But yeah. So, yeah.
Well, if there's one thing I observe about Okoli, that man does not like getting hit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying boxers love getting hit, right? Because if we've done our martial arts, we've got hit, and it's not necessarily fun, but we get kind of used to it. But on their levels, which are much higher level than I ever flipping spied out, of course, he does not like getting hit, which is why his defense is to hug you. Sponsored by Huggies.
I watched the fight. I think he's long and rangy. He caught the guy early, like quite flush, and then dropped him, I think, early in the fight. But the guy kept coming back, started to absorb the power, and the guy boxed pretty well. And he did. It's like he said, when every time the guy did fight back, Lawrence was kind of like tying him up and holding on. And it does look, for the size of him and the presence he could have if he was to, use his jab and box properly and not let the guy get inside. It does look ungamely in a way, but I do like him. I think he's 32 years old now. He hasn't had many fights or experience, even though he went to the Olympics. He really hasn't. He's come into the sport kind of late, in my opinion, and he's got a lot of work to do, especially if he's talking about going up to heavyweight. I don't know if he can unify. I think I saw some limitations with him. I think there's a good fighter who can avoid the big punches that he throws and get inside and hurt him. Could probably beat him at cruiserweight. And I've heard his sparring stories about him knocking out heavyweights. AJ, I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard you hear these stories and everything else. So maybe he can hang at heavyweight better than maybe does at 15 stone or whatever he is at a cruiserweight.
Funny enough, it wasn't O'Kearley that I heard was the one that knocked out AJ. It's some up and coming heavyweight, and his name slips me now because I haven't heard of him in about a year. Funny enough, a year and a half. But he was getting a lot of publicity on iPhone, and they kept on asking him about, "Oh, did you whatever?" But it wasn't O'Kearley. But
I heard it was. I heard it was O'Kearley, and I heard also Daniel Dubois knocked him down as well. And Dubois.
And who's the other guy? The other cruiserweight guy, big 6'5" frame from South London, under Dylan White. If I think he fights under Dylan White as well. Apparently he.
That's the guy.
Sparring, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the guy because O'Kearley never heard one interview touching that, but the guy you've just mentioned, Zax, that's the guy.
I can't remember. You know I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, I can't recall his name. He's on the up as well.
About Dubois and all the rest of it.
But we're going up to heavyweight now, and we are going to talk about the heavyweight division.
Let me just say, you make a great point with O'Kearley, and you think of his length, rangy, like you said. Come on. If you are truly confident in what you're doing, and you're not worried about, you're comfortable getting touched, you would box to your advantages. And he negates all his advantages. And that only makes sense if you understand he's that fearful of getting hit.
Yeah. I kind of understand that because when I sparred in the past, I used to look a bit scared as well. You know, if someone got his hammer jab, my little bro would tell you, I was shook and worried. You know, I used to think, yeah, so easy, pop, and someone come inside and just take out your ribs. So yeah, it's a scary.
You didn't become a pro boxer.
Well, I didn't have the balls for it, to be honest. After a few sparring sessions with anyone decent, I bottled it. Just want to say hi to Big Godfrey. How you doing, Godfrey, man? Nice for you to tune in. Godfrey's a big guy, big strong guy as well, and he's getting back into shape. Love to see that. Big up to Silver Fox as well. We've got Anthony Herbert obviously in the house as well. So make sure you like and subscribe. We're now on 10 likes, guys. So let's get to 20 before the show ends. And everyone should be tuning in now because we're talking about the big heavyweights. It's interesting division right now, isn't it? I don't know if we should start on AJ, but let's start on Fury. Let's start Fury and White. They're scheduled to fight. I think it's in May. I think in May, Wembley Stadium. Apparently sold out. They had a press conference the other day. White didn't turn up. He's in Portugal, I think, training out there. He didn't turn up. Any significance in that? Do you think there's any reason why he didn't turn up, or any kind of psychological things? He's scared to go head to head with the banter with Tyson Fury.
We've heard stuff about. Everyone really was anticipating that press conference because White gives it as well, just as much as Fury. But we've heard little stuff about a private jet, White wanting a private jet and all this, but could be a psychological White trying to play mind games or something. You just don't know. But I'm not going to read too much into it because there'll be another press conference scheduled where he has to turn up, you know. But I think Fury did it to Vladimir a few years ago before the second fight. And it does piss the other fighter off, I'm sure.
Are they obliged to step up and attend or promote the fight, Brian? Do you think
they're certainly expected to for very, very obvious reasons. But again, I feel there's another mitigating circumstance with White. I felt it was a stupid move, frankly. But anyway, he's made his choices. The other thing I do understand, though, to be fair to Dillian, is this guy has spent the last 5 years being shafted by the WBC, messed about by Arum, even Matchroom, and White has to live with this. Matchroom have also played him and leveraged him in favor of Joshua.
Yes.
And I think the whole thing is a culmination of that guy saying, do you know what? Fuck you guys. I'll do whatever I want to do. I'm focused on doing what so many of you regard as impossible. I'm not playing ball with you guys because for the last 5 years, you haven't played any ball with me. That's the way I see his behavior.
Can I just say, though, you could look at it on the flip side and say we've got to remember that White turned down the AJ fight when AJ was a world champion when he had the 4 belts. About 2019, just before AJ fought Ruiz. White turned it down when he's with Eddie Hearn. They're both under Matchroom. And apparently White said something about something to do with the rematch clause or something like that.
I'll explain after you finish.
But it, some things like that, you question how hungry is someone to be a world champion if they're turning down the opportunity to fight your rival again to be a world champion. Now, for me, it's like everyone said he's been shafted by the WBC or whatever, but he's not putting up a no stink about it, because I think really deep down he knew that he wasn't ready. Like, I think he's taken all these fights because he didn't have much of an amateur career. I think he wanted to take more fights, gain more experience to be the best that he could possibly be. Because I don't really think, even though he's ranked number 1, I don't think with Fury being there, AJ, I just don't think he's got what it takes to be a world champion. He's good all round, but there's nothing special about him that will take him to be a world champion. But that's just my opinion. I think deep down he's not.
I'll take you through some of the stuff that I know is on record.
Okay.
Now, if you think about White, he fought AJ at a time they decided, look, you know what, we're going to sacrifice White. He can fight AJ while he's still fairly green. They knew he could be dangerous. They know that on his night, White's probably got a 33% chance of KOing anyone. Yeah, that's probably the odds when you look at White's performances and who he can tackle and everything else. He's got a fairly good chance of knocking people out. Now, when it came down to the AJ rematch, we all know that we all hear stories of some seriously dark shenanigans going on in terms of boxing negotiations, and they all follow that Klitschko script now, where they throw a load of bullshit at the other fighter, whether it's Klitschko, AJ, whatever. They all follow, because AJ now follows that blueprint with how he behaves with fighters. And when it came down to Dillian Whyte, the stipulation, never mind all the games they were playing anyway, the key stipulation was that should Whyte win the rematch, even though he was champion, he would have to have the three-peat under the exact same financial terms as the rematch. That's stitching somebody up gracefully. All right? That was the main reason why he didn't go for that. Now I'm going to go on a very brief contradiction of that particular point, which I slapped Whyte about, but I wouldn't do it if he was in front of me because I'd be running down the hallway. When Big Baby Miller, got popped hot, pissing hot, he was out the scene, wasn't he? So Whyte, who said, I am not going to fight AJ for that £6 million or £3 million, whatever. I'm not going to fight him for that money because, you're only giving me 3 months to train, for example, and there's a rematch thing. He turned back round with even shorter amount of time and said, okay, I'll do it now. Almost as if he had time to think about the money he was turning down and thought, you know what? Yeah, I'll go for it again. So he made himself look kind of stupid because he had his scruples, his principles 4 months before. And once Miller dropped out, all of a sudden he was now saying, now I want to do the fight. Confused? Yeah, I was.
Just want to add a few comments here from the guys. Andy's saying he can see Fury winning hands down against Whyte. Shame we can't get AJ and Fury in the ring. Think going on Monday should tell AJ to get the fight on now. Unfortunately, I would not. The way AJ's acting at the moment, I wouldn't want to be speaking like that. I do want to say someone. This is our centre back partner Zico from last year. Remember James? A bit of a hot head, got sent off in the final. Not sent off, but walked out on us on the final. But what a player! What a great defender! Great centre back. I love his boxing as well. James, how you doing, man? Long time. Glad you're tuning in. He says Whyte has handed Fury a massive psychological advantage by no showing. Very silly thing to do against the king of head games. And Godfrey saying, I'm really enjoying listening to you guys. Very interesting. Thanks, Godfrey. Thank you. So, guys, with this thing, I've heard, don't quote me on this, that the deal he's getting 20%, maybe 80% is going to Fury. He's not getting much for this fight. Is in
8 million.
25. And if he wins,
yeah,
White gets 35% as a total, including the bonus for winning.
See, I'm disappointed with the boxing thing. White's done a lot. I really admire him the way, because he got banned for drugs early in his career. He's come back. He's got his reputation restored, because I remember the comments and what people were saying about him back then.
Well,
He's come back.
Remember they swerved the second time? They swerved the second ban 3 years ago. You remember that came up?
I don't know. You'd have to remind me. I can't remember.
3 years ago.
You know the original one, way back.
Yeah, the original one, way back.
Yeah,
way back. And then, as he was, he came back. He got caught again, and it got buried. And the Boxing Board of Control was supposed to be investigating, and they dragged it out for about 9 months, and suddenly it was just forgotten. This was a big thing for months about White, and people were slagging him off and this and that, and he wasn't commenting. And Jimmy Tibbs' son, Mark Tibbs didn't know what was going on because he had to go on holiday. Yeah, he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
all that happened and blew up for about 9 months, and they just buried it, just like they're doing with Boris Johnson at the moment. Just bury it with everything that's going on at the moment. Bury it.
So it doesn't seem to tarnish his reputation, because he can come out and say, all these quotes, and people love him. He's done really well marketing himself like that, and I think so. That seems to have gone under the carpet. I mean, if that came up, maybe that's why he doesn't want to come. Yeah, maybe that's why he doesn't want to come and face Fury.
That was the strategy. Exhaust them into deciding, we can't be asked anymore, because people were on White's case for a long while, and it was all about, you can't accuse him of being guilty. Let's wait and see the results of the whatever. And then you had the A sample, which was proven guilty. Now, the one thing anyone knows about drug testing is that an A sample and a B sample, they're two samples from the same lot.
Yep.
For lack of a better word. Yeah. The same pool. It's the same sample. So the B sample never changes from the A.
Yeah.
But the way they were spinning it, out there, they were saying, right, okay, do you know what? We've got to wait for the results of the B sample. And the B sample results never came.
Wow. To be honest, I didn't know this. I does ring slight bells, but like you said, it's been brushed under the carpet. But
I was laughing.
What I will give him respect for is the caliber of opponents he's had. I mean, he stepped up against Lucas Brown, and Lucas Brown was unbeaten at the time. I know we can look back now and say Lucas Brown but he went to Bulgaria, whatever. He won a title. He can hit hard. Knocked him out. He stood up against Joseph Parker, gave him a defeat, which I thought gets
first guy to knock Joseph Parker down.
Yeah. The fights with Chisora, I don't think he performed too well. He's getting hit.
Lost the first one.
Yeah, quite possibly. But the thing is, the way he was getting hit in those fights, I was thinking to myself, your career is going to be shortened if you carry on like this. And then obviously you beat the short, stout guy who's now fighting in between.
Like the Cuban sort of guy, yeah. That guy knocked him down though. That guy gave him a scare as well, just like Joseph Parker.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So there's vulnerability.
Povetkin as well. I mean, and the big guy,
the Polish guy, Vak, Mariusz Vak,
Whack.
Whack.
How can I say this? I would never like you say Brides. I would never say these to their face. But yeah, I think he's done well. He's got a good resume. And I really admire him for sticking in there. And he does deserve a title shot. Whether he beats Fury, I don't think he can, to be honest. Maybe he should have waited out for someone else to come along. But like I said, if you've got to take your opportunities. And this is a huge fight. And I'm sure all of us will be tuned in to watch that. Let's see how this develops. Let's talk about the other fight, the big heavyweight fight, which was Usyk against AJ. And what's going on? We know where we're going to take this, but before we do, so I just want to say James is jumping in against. He said he didn't get sent off, but he got took off by our amazing gaffer. But cheers anyway for that. Forgive me, you didn't get sent off. You left at half time because our amazing gaffer Yeah. Anyway, enough about that.
You know what
James also said 100% correct about White getting done the second time. This view, Brian, completely got swept and no one talks about it. But he is a double cheat. He says, yeah. So he knew about that as well. Yeah, let's talk about it. So Usyk, obviously, there's political issues going on right now. Maybe he might vacate the belt. Who knows what's going to happen there? But in the meantime, you got AJ as well, and he's still like a big name. But we all agree. I mean, we discussed this before the show. We watched a few interviews from he was in Wembley, I think, last night at a boxing show. And as the fine young cannibals used to say, I'm not the man I used to be. A lot of contradictions, I believe. Something's wrong with AJ. Do you want to talk about this, guys? Where are we going to go with this? Because let me make a claim. Let me make a claim. I think I said to you, bro, after the Vladimir fight, I said to you, he's done.
Yeah,
because he did the way he got knocked down and he didn't like it. I said there's something wrong with his character here. He's got this
too image conscious.
He's Superman, image conscious, and all that kind of thing. And when he got dropped, it was dropped by he got set up nicely. And I thought he got schooled in that fight. I know he got the win in the end, just from pure rage. I don't know what happened.
Rage.
Let's not go there. I'm not saying that, but not for skills. But the way he handled that knockdown, from then I said to him, no, this guy's finished. And then there was the Dominic Breesdale. He was in his face, said, you know, you ain't about that life and all that kind of thing. And then it's contradicted when somebody like Miller gives him a big shove and then he wants to say, no, it's okay. You know, so I think you got to be consistent. And I think AJ maybe is inconsistent. And I don't think he's the force he ever will be again. He's had defeats. That Ruiz defeat will hurt him for the rest of his life, I believe. And I think he's finished. And we spoke earlier about when do you know a guy is finished, but I'm saying AJ for me, spiritually, psychologically, he's not the man he used to be. Do you want to talk about this, guys?
I'll let Zico lead off.
You got a lot to say, Zeke.
I've got too much to say. I think we should have done the whole show on this. We could talk for an hour.
Well, we've got time. Let's talk. Right, well, and guys in the comments, what do you think? Come on, let's go there.
I've said some of the shows, a couple of shows we did back before, that he's a walking contradiction. Like I can't. It's cringeworthy now to listen to him in an interview. It really is just like it's so embarrassing. And the interviews that he was giving yesterday is just. It's hard to watch. It really is hard to watch because he contradicts himself so much, and now he's, you know, everything's so rehearsed. You know, he's not coming off the cuff. It's like he's preparing. Right, this is what I'm going to say. He's probably thinking in his bedroom. Actually, I'm going to do this in the interview. Yeah, going to make people think I'm crazy. You know? It's all too premeditated. Everything is just like, it's not natural. It's not natural, and I've always felt, even like from his early stuff, that there's someone in the background, like scripted, telling him what to say in the interviews, like Eddie Hearn, like putting boards up, or you know, because he's like looking around. And I just think he's completely gone. He's lost. He's lost. Yeah, and Dylan said it years ago. He's a fraud. Like how his media persona and how he acts when you're with him, with someone, like you know, when they're together, and when they had that sparring or whatever. Is completely different. So that's what Dylan kept saying. He's a fraud, and no one was really picking up on it. So that's all I've got to say for now.
Ryan?
I definitely think, you mentioned spiritually, psychologically lost 100%. If I can go back 5 years and I was like, do you know what, this AJ, God, because his achievements are brilliant.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? He got given a nice run in the Olympics. He probably should have gone out on the first fight, and he definitely didn't win the final.
Yeah.
But we all know what goes on in various country locations regarding the Olympics, and AJ was the golden child, and that was that. Okay. But seeing how he came through, it was like, do you know what? Yeah, okay, fine. Astute, strong guy, whatever. Built himself up with the Superman complex. Once again, paraphrasing Zach's fantastic. And I've seen him over since that Ruiz fight. He's definitely freaking lost. He's a classic overthinker. He's the guy to me where we can be impressed by the level he's attained, by the palms that have been greased to put him up at a certain level. He's worked hard. But he's like a guy who's got 200 books on positive thinking and refers to all of them every day. Yeah? It's too much. At some point, you need to know who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Right? And he's sitting there with all these books. Well, today, and if you and today I'll be a philosopher who will break the universe, and then I'm going to be a bad man who will beat you up if you look at me the wrong way, and then I'm going to be a guy who's rapping along, Swansea. You know, who are you, mate?
Yeah,
he's a classic overthinker. But the most important thing is this is a guy who is now a fighter and is so lost in the perception of him probably being some boxing billionaire god Superman, that the fact that's not even going to be a reality, even all he's achieved isn't enough to stop him being messed up. It's quite scary.
You know, going back, I remember like the way he's 6'6", he's tall, rangy, and we went to York Hall and watched him one time.
It's about 2 inches shorter than you, isn't it, Zach?
We met him. We actually met him. And,
well, he looked at Zach like he knew him. He said, "Yeah, how you doing?"
I'll tell you a story. Funny story about this. We went down. We went to see James Toney. We weren't really interested in watching AJ. He was coming up, and he was fighting a guy at York Hall. It was, I think, it was a prize fight thing with James Toney, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we're there, we're enjoying it, watching the fight, and then AJ comes up, and it's like, wow, he looks impressive. Like, he looks like a Greek god. He's massive, and obviously Larry Holmes was there as well. And I was thinking, okay, he punched through his opponent. Basically, the opponent's just like that, and he's like bam, 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 like his first 15, 16 fight, punch through the guy, and you think, okay, that's impressive, but what else have you got here? You know, can you show us a little something? And then I see interviews with him where he's saying he wants to fight like Mike Tyson. That's his inspiration. I'm thinking, surely he should be saying Larry Holmes or Lennox Lewis or Muhammad Ali. But he's saying, no, I want to be bam, knocking guys out, coming down low, and thinking, you know. So I think, oh, you're getting too hyped here, man. You need to know your limitations. Like I'm about the same measurements as him in height and all that kind of thing. And I'm thinking, no, surely you should be able to fight with a jab and be intelligent and fight like Klitschko, for example. You learn something from that. Learn something because you're supposed to be buddies with this guy as well. And that's the model there of how to have longevity. And when Klitschko was younger, when he fought and maybe got in a bit of a tear-up, he had to change his style and all that kind of thing. But he doesn't learn.
Horrible
and one person, Lennox Lewis, when he dissed Lennox Lewis, that for me was like, that's why you're calling the guy a clown. The guy's trying to help you out here. He can see you need to develop, and you didn't want to learn anything. You think, no, I know better. You're just a clown. And I thought, well, how can you say that? And he doesn't really know. I don't think he knows about boxing history. And I don't expect him to. Not like us. I would say we know more than him about boxing history and growing up and watching boxing, that kind of thing, rather than him. Now, we were in by the bar or something. He was coming back from the thing. And I was looking out for him, but we caught eyes because we're both tall. And he came over and said, yes, like this is the kind of thing he is. Yes, Bridging, or yes, Ting. Like he knows me.
No, but he's like, how you doing? He was like, how you doing? I thought,
how you doing?
Like,
I'm thinking, I don't know you.
And Zach didn't tell me that you knew him. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and he's like, that, yes, man, like we knew each other. But I thought that was just like, why you act like you know me? I don't know you. You know, but to my brother, I was like, yeah, man, me and him. But the truth be told, I don't know him. And it's like, yeah, he saw me, and because I'm tall and he's tall, it was like as if to say, that's a kind of thing. And I was thinking, I don't really know you, but usually Derek Jajor was there that night, and he was scaring me.
Because he was standing there.
He didn't want to know me, know. Or like I've seen Wayne Alexander out, he's scared the life out of me sometimes. I had to put my head down like that, because some of these boxers, they're like they've got that thing about them. But AJ was too friendly, too thing. I think, come on, you need to drop that because one day you have to be ruthless, and if you carry on with this image and thing, people will break that down, scratch the surface, like Dylan White tried to do, and like Great Miller and all this. I was going to say Jacob Miller. Dreadlocks them live in a tenement yard. What's his name? It's not Jacob Miller, is it? It's Miller. The guy that popped for drugs, the big guy there.
Yeah, Big Baby.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
Baby Miller. Yeah, not Jacob Miller. What are we talking about? Yeah. So from there, I'm just thinking you built up the persona, like you're saying, Brian. And it's there to be struck down because you're not really this guy going on Graham Norton and flirting out for the public and all that. That's great and everything, but you're not Frank Bruno, because sometimes now we're seeing him swearing a lot and like, I don't give a damn, I'm a bad boy and all this kind of thing. So where you at? I think when you come into boxing, it's so ruthless. It's such a ruthless business. You need to come, like Eubank, from day one, be who you're going to be and stick with it, you know? And I think AJ, I think he's finished. I can't see him beating any of the top guys. I think you got like Philip Hurtovich. I think he would beat him. I think Frank Sanchez maybe could outbox him.
Joe Joyce, Joe
Joyce, Michael Hunter could box. I'm at the stage now. I think a lot of these guys, because they've seen vulnerability, and a bit like that's all gone. That Superman thing's gone. A lot of these guys would be confident of beating him.
Sorry, can I just quickly touch upon as well?
If you have decent world level ability as a heavyweight, and you can take the punch, and a lot of it we've all seen through history is about the psychological. Suddenly, Mike Tyson, Nazim Hamid, they weren't able to knock people out. Once people saw how far they were going into rounds with lesser guys. Yeah. So once they had the first half of their career where they were freaking boxing gods, everyone was like, do you know what, falling down in one round and everything, I can't take the power or whatever. Yeah. All of a sudden, last flipping 6 fights, it's 12 round this, 10 round that. Yeah, 8 round KO and all this kind of shit. It was a very different attitude. So with Joshua, if you can take his power, the fact now that he showed in that Reyes fight, he showed who he was. He was more scared to lose what he'd built up than he was to say, I'm a fighter, I'm going to thump you little Mexican fatty out this ring. Wasn't prepared to do it.
Good point. Yeah.
It's like, and it's impossible for me to understand, because this is a guy who trains every day and has done it for the last, 12, 14 years as a boxer. Every day. And you're going to go into a fight and you are going to decide, you know what, I'm not going to fight you. I'm still going to stay on the outside and then ask what's happening. And then when you lose, you're flipping really pissed off because it's like, hold on a second, I thought I could start this out like flipping Canelo, on the A side here. I thought, I've remained standing, don't I win? You could almost see the shock on his face for him to lose that against Usyk. But the point was, when he got hurt enough, he was like, no, I'm not imposing my size and my power anymore. I'm going to go into my shell, try and style this out and steal a win. That's my opinion.
Can we just drop a few questions here, or comments, sorry. In the Anthony saying it's AJ's 2-5 to win. Usyk is 9-4. I'm surprised by that. He said they're scheduled to fight in April. That's a bit soon. It's only next month. I can't see that happening. Not when AJ was out last night.
No.
Godfrey saying, what do you guys think if AJ was to fight Deontay Wilder? Any thoughts on that? Do you want to talk on that quickly?
Whoever lands first.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think Wilder would knock him out, to be honest. Our big brother, Christian Tilleray, how you doing? Hi, Neek. Hi, the family. He said AJ needs to be some ruthless 100%. I think his meaning is, he needs to be ruthless 100. And AJ's lost too much weight to hold the power he once had. That's
well, people used to say the weight was the issue why he was getting tired. So that's why he tried to lose the weight. Because AJ's so affected by what people are saying. That's why he's tried to outbox Usyk, because people were saying he couldn't box. And he admitted it. Well, people said I couldn't box, so I want to show them this. Like, you just got to do what's working for you. You just got to do what is working for you.
Let's also remember he lost weight for Ruiz in the second fight.
Yeah.
Now,
because
I'll tell you guys this because I know Zach's a weight trainer, so he'll understand exactly where I'm coming from here. You cannot be an elite trainer as a boxer with the kind of boxing training you do, which is heavily cardio-based, and go from a heavyweight with tick arms to this cruiserweight-looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
I was like, hold on a second. AJ's gone from that thick arm, because he's not particularly broad, right? But he's thick arms and everything else. He went from that to this basketball player. And I was like, what have you come off, mate?
Yeah.
It's impossible to train as hard as he does and go, hold on a second, he now looks 2 stone lighter like that.
Yeah. When you think about physiques, like boxing physiques, people his size, like Lennox Lewis, remember what his physique was like? He wasn't that muscular. He's just big, you know, and that's
He's
what you
big,
should be looking
broad.
at as a boxer. Frank Bruno was quite ripped, but
tell me
he was
the
leaner.
last heavyweight
Frank
you've
Bruno was
seen.
leaner than AJ.
You tell me the last heavyweight you've seen that went from looking like AJ did to suddenly a division lower. He got thin.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Even his neck was no longer there. You know, he was always doing his neck.
Yeah.
Even the neck's no longer there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? I said, what are you off?
Yeah. I mean, this is the good thing about the show. We can talk honestly about it because it's our ringside seat. We can say what we've seen and just give our own observation. And I do agree that it's rife in sport. And I think if you're the A side, I always had issue with Klitschko for years. I thought these guys definitely got the advantage here with what they're doing. So, yeah, I think if you're the A side, you're going to have advantages over the B side for sure. And I think AJ
I also think it's almost as if I look at AJ as if he's some kind of superstar artist where he's just become corrupted at the levels he's at and he's lost. Or superstar musician where you just see them implode because they've been enabled and they've had this certain impression of themselves. I don't get a bad vibe from the guy, but I just get one where, again, to reiterate Uzak's, spiritually and psychologically lost without a doubt. Doesn't know who he is. And it was really important to be that boxing Superman. Yeah.
I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, I wish him the best, to be honest, but from what I'm seeing, just my observation, I do think he's a broken man inside. It really hurts him to lose like that. I think he would have rather lost to Wilder or Fury than to lose to who he lost to, because he's lost to a cruiserweight coming up. That's not cool, regardless how good Usyk is. And he's lost to, as you put it, a big, large, fat Mexican, you know, and people laugh, make jokes at it. And then we're in that era now with social media. I mean, some of the memes and things can be really painful. And if you're trending that much, people will laugh. People are ruthless. They will laugh at you. It's tentative.
I'm sorry,
he hasn't got the thick enough skin, I feel, to deal with all that after he's built himself up to be something.
He's chosen a new trainer who was been assistant to him for years. So when 3 years ago, when Lennox was saying after he lost to Reese that Lennox was suggesting he needs to get a new trainer and evolve, AJ just responded by calling Lennox a clown. And obviously now 3 years later, he's changed his trainer. But this guy, I'm trying to do some research on him, but he's just someone that's been in AJ's camp the whole time. So is this a good decision?
Augie Sanchez? Is it Augie Sanchez?
Yeah, Sanchez. But if he's been in AJ's camp this whole time, like, is it really good decision? Is it?
Did you say Augie Sanchez?
No,
Augie Sanchez. Yeah, not the guy for.
That's Nazim Hamid.
Nassim, yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It's something like that. I forget his name.
Something Sanchez, but he's like assistant to Robert McCracken.
Wow.
So I just don't know if that is that evolving. I don't really know.
Again, he to me, he just built up this team. It's Team AJ. I'm the captain of the Starship Enterprise. Blah blah blah. And you cannot call yourself a fighter because look, I'm sure you put us in a situation, right? We're not trained fighters, but I'm sure all three of us here, outside of getting KO'd, you put us in a situation where we get a thump, we're still standing, the instinct is to fight back. I know that's me all over. Yeah, if you knock me out, fine. Do you know what? Yeah, beat me up, knock my teeth out, whatever. But if you don't do that, I'm going to fight you back. You cannot be in AJ's situation and not have the instinct and go, something's not fundamentally wrong with that guy. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm talking as a normal human being, not just as a flipping fighter. It's crazy.
There's evidence for this, I believe. It's like in the fight with Ruiz, he was actually coming back to the corner and asking the corner, so what do I do now? It's like,
what's he learning
on the job? Yeah. And I think, are you trying to sound like intelligent? Are you realizing, boy, I'm in trouble here, and just being like trying to act wise? So yes, what do you do now? That old 1-2 we did.
Zach, I'll tell you this now. I honestly believe that guy thought he'd discovered some formula to bending the universe to his will.
Yeah, yeah.
Seriously,
it's the ego. It's the
you
ego
would
thing.
not go back to your corner and go, "What do I do now?" If you didn't think of some kind of predetermined formula for getting a result.
Yeah.
And to me, that's why I reiterate, when I saw him in his fight against Usyk, and he got to about the 6th round, he started giving Usyk some thumps, and Usyk started looking a bit uncomfortable. Now, whether AJ got a bit tired or he was getting timed a little bit, Usyk made some adjustments. Once he started taking some thumps, it was like, do you know what? Let me go down the Klitschko route, stay standing, got to get the decision, surely. I'll get the decision, actually. I'll get it.
I don't think he thought that. And there was actually like a still frame, a picture of like someone was about to throw in the towel on the 12th. Because I think psychologically, that fight might have hurt him just as much as the first Ruiz fight. It might have been just as humiliating because of how he felt. Because he had no answer. It's like he had no answer to what Usyk was doing. And he felt tired, fatigued, and he couldn't do anything back. So it was almost as humiliating, you know.
Yeah. I'm not talking about the 12th round where Usyk almost KO'd him.
No, he had his moments. Like he had like a few moments in that fight, but on the whole, he got dominated by a smaller guy.
Yeah, which was absolutely ridiculous. Seriously, we know that.
There's no plan B.
It's embarrassing.
This is what I'm saying. And the reason why I also say this as well is with the various incarnations of AJ that we recognize, there was about 2 years ago, he started chatting about, okay, after he lost the first Ruiz fight, he started talking about, okay, boxing like Klitschko. That's when he got boring, right? This is what I'm saying. So if you're starting to do that, you start thinking that I've got the formula now, which is I'll keep it long. And then he came back only 2 months ago and said, you know what? I've got to forget all this boxing stuff and I've got to go back to being Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Come on.
So we're not here slating him. We're evidencing, demonstrating that we can evidence the reason why we might have this opinion or doubt or question mark about him. There's so many, like, this discussion is good because you can say, oh, someone's SHIT, but let's back it up. Let's talk about the reasons why. Here's all the evidence to suggest why we have doubts about him.
Yeah.
Just crazy confusion, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
And when you have a team of enablers, the whole, that's the good thing about yes men. They're there to say yes even when you're going down the wrong path. They don't help you.
Yeah.
And I think
tradition,
coming back to what you said, Zach, I think it is generally too late. He has the power to get him out of certain spots, but if he no longer uses that power and he doesn't have the kind of confidence as Zico mentioned, then really he's going to start losing fights. We still think he should win.
Yeah.
Because that's a great point, because if this was the AJ of 4 or 5 years ago, he would have employed a different game plan to fight Usyk. But because this is the AJ 4 or 5 years later who's affected by what people are saying, that's the reason why he fought that way.
And I think, to be fair, I think he's more scared to lose the empire he was building in his mind. Because remember, he's had to live with criticism since the Olympics, since he blew up. So that ain't going to be the biggest deal in the world. But when it comes down to what fuels your ego, I'm the boxing Superman. I'm the king. I'm the billionaire businessman. I'm that ubermensch individual. And no, you're not, man, because we saw some little fat Mexican beat you up and knock you out. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. That doesn't sit well. It doesn't sit well. And we saw it didn't sit well because we saw him come back tepid as a fighter.
Yeah.
The guy was running away from Ruiz all the fight. Yeah, he took one shot in that first round and that was it, man. He was on his freaking unicycle backwards.
Wow. It's. I think boxing, you need to it's true. You need to have that foundation, amateur experience. And you say, well, he's Olympic champion, but to me, he started when he was 19, didn't have much experience, and it's showing now. I think there's nothing to fall back on. You scratch the surface with him, and there's no plan B. You know, like I said, he's asking questions. He's got one way of fighting. He believes he can knock people out, which he's got the power to do. But it's a lot deeper than that. He's starting to realize the sport is so deep, and to be a real champion, not just in the ring, outside of that as well, you can't do it. You can't do both, and just be yourself.
And there's a difference between being a true fighting mentality,
yes,
and a boxing athlete.
Yeah.
And he is a boxing athlete who isn't necessarily incredibly technically talented and definitely not a true natural fighter, but he's a boxing athlete who has attained on a crazy level.
Yeah.
Everyone would argue that he showed a fighter mentality in the first Klitschko fight after he got knocked down.
No.
That's what people would argue there.
Well, I disagree. I just felt that he was getting out. He got outworked. He dropped the guy. Imagine this: you drop him by the first few 5 rounds. I think was like, you know, they're just sparring, and then he actually turned it up a little bit, went to beast mode and started throwing punches, and actually dropped him. And then that same round,
he almost got stopped himself.
Same round, he nearly got stopped. And this speaks volumes. And in the following round,
and that's naivety there. And this is what I'm saying, Zico, about his ego is super invested in that massive foundation or that massive empire he was building around himself. Because you made a fair point there. Of course, he showed fighting spirit coming back against Klitschko, but you cannot say that for someone who does boxing 24/7. And when they need to start showing it later on in their career, it goes AWOL. Life doesn't work that way. So he's lost. Back to Zach's brilliant point. Spiritually and psychologically lost. That's where is the kids at, unfortunately.
Guys, if you're watching the comments, please press the like button. Andy Herbert here is asking you guys, at 32 years old now, not long, how much do you think he's got left in the boxing industry? And last one, Christian says Usyk may not fight him now, depending on what happens in Ukraine. Fury has announced retirement after the Wyatt fight. Where would AJ look for his opponent next? Can we just cover that before we wind down?
All right, quickly. I just think AJ, he might have a few fights left, but we've just said psychologically, these fights he might have been winning 4 or 5 years ago. He's not the same fighter, so he's vulnerable. So you know, and I don't think Fury's retiring. Fury says a lot of stuff he doesn't mean. He's always done that over the years. I think Fury and AJ will fight at some point next year, whether it's for undisputed or not, I don't know. But that's the fight that's going to happen for British boxing. That's going to be the big money fight. I believe it will happen, but I don't know what happens in between that. I know Fury will get his wins off, but I think AJ should fight someone next, a filler, if Usyk can't fight because of this, what's going on in Ukraine.
Here's how I see it. AJ is now transcendental, which means he can fight for as long as he wants to fight. He's always going to draw a crowd. But that money thing that Zico mentioned is very important to him. So when I evaluate everything, I look at him definitely going for a fight with. He didn't want to fight Usyk because let's get something clear here. At no point did he come out and say, when they were negotiating between AJ and Fury, at no point did he come out and say, I want to rematch Usyk. At no point. In fact, even Hearn confirmed that they were negotiating a step aside so that AJ Fury could get it on because AJ Usyk could get it on because
Fury Usyk could get it on.
You know what? Yeah. I can take my 15 million step aside.
Yeah.
With a Fury's telling the truth, but I can take my millions of step aside. Fury can beat Usyk, which gets him out of my hair because I believe I've got a better chance with Fury than I've got with Usyk.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the fight, if there's any fight, once he gets one of these gimmies out the way or whatever, we know, based on how I evaluate his situation, I feel fairly sure Fury is the fight he'd want because that's the money fight. Yeah. That's the 100 million fight, isn't it? So
and if that's what I'm saying, if he's able to beat Fury, everyone will forget about his past losses because even like we just touched on Dylan White, it's almost acceptable for him to lose to Fury. But Dylan White knows if he fights AJ again and loses, that's like a big thing. You know, people expect Fury to win his fights because he's been that dominant. But AJ knows if he can pull that one off, that would.
And he'll go down the same spin route as Fury, because once Fury beat Wilder, he started talking about, well, I'm a lineal champ because I beat once he beat Klitschko, all of a sudden he wasn't talking about your Whites or your Joshuas. He was going, well, I'm lineal champ because I beat the man who beat the men.
Yeah.
So they're all sitting there playing their freaking political little games, making their little chess maneuvers, trying to keep their egos intact, when none of them are truly killing themselves to fight each other, unless at the very most they're sitting there going, do you know what, it's got to be 35, 50 million before I get in with that guy. And they're all playing the same game.
Guys, this has been a great discussion. I mean, we spent a long time talking about AJ, but he is a complex guy. I think there's a lot to discuss. As Zico said, have you got all day talk about him? I think really interesting character. And I say that interesting character. I mean that he's a character. That what character he is, I just don't know. I just don't know where he's going. But guys, it's been great again. We're going to be joined again soon by Robbie. Robbie's going to come on to the next show. We'll be going again in a couple of weeks. We'll let you guys know about it. Brian, just want to give a shout out where you're from, where people can find you.
Hey, you'll only find me on Facebook at the moment because I'm not doing Instagram, I'm not doing Twitter, and I've got a load of shit going on in my life. So I'm just keeping it cool.
And Brian, once again, thank you so much for your contributions.
Thank you, Zax.
Top drawer as always. And Kahinde, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Zico Forbes. You can find me on Instagram, Zico at _players first.
And what's the players first? You just want to give people a...
It's a football academy. We are not currently running, but we're hoping to do a tournament this summer, London Cup. There's this, but we've had a little stopgap because of COVID. But we are an academy that gets players opportunities, professional with professional clubs, gets them opportunities for trials to take them to the next level. Trials with pro clubs.
Doesn't stop you from going to your local nightclub, though, does it?
Someone had a date.
He's going to get a frying pan in his head when this goes down, I tell you.
Hey guys, big up. So yeah, we've gone on almost an hour and a half of pure boxing chat. That's what we love to do. Good vibes as always.
Love, man.
Love it. So we're going to welcome Rob back next week, whenever we come on in a couple of weeks' time. And make sure you listen out. Andy Herbert, Godfrey, James in the comments. Yep, thank you so much. And Christian as well.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Zico.
Thank you.
Share, subscribe to FDB Sports. And we're out. We're signing out. You're going to see my lovely legs again. Good night.